So you served as chairman of the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation until 2001, and then you returned to doing some episodic television. You directed Robbery Homicide Division, which was another Michael Mann project. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that was really interesting because Michael was working with digital. He wasn't working with film. And, you know, Michael's choices are always kind of edgy. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed that. I was doing a show like called Robbery Homicide, and, you know, and you get to shoot, you know, things a little more edge to them and like that. There's not much more to say about that. You know, it was interesting. It was an interesting experience.
And you returned to acting around that time as well. You did the TV movie And Never Let Her Go.
Yeah.
That was your first time back in front of the camera in a while.
I know. I've been trying to reintroduce myself to the business, mm-hmm. you know, in terms of putting myself out there. I felt like been away for a while, and that was an interesting experience doing that film. Mm-hmm. You know, playing a character who was very angry seemed to fit the bill.
And you made your return to the big screen in Something's Gotta Give in 2003. You worked with Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton.
Yeah.
How were they to work with?
Fine.
Yeah.
You know, Diane I've known her for a little while, and she's a delight. It was nice. It was a nice experience.
And you appeared on The Closer in 2008.
Oh yeah, that's all. You know, the people started saying, "Oh, you know, get back in there, get back in there," and so I got back in there, and I started directing some episodic and appearing in some episodic, trying to keep a really positive attitude.
Mm-hmm. And then in 2011, you published your first book, Crystalia and the Source of Light. What was your inspiration for that?
Well, I'd written it as a screenplay about 13 years before. But at the time, there was no technology available to animate the properties of light, which, thanks to James Cameron, that's no longer the case. But then, that being the case, I decided to write it as a book. Well, I've never written a book, which was a reason enough to try. Mm-hmm. And so I started writing and working on it. And it took a long time. And what I realized while I was writing the book, what I had created, it's like right now I do a lot of painting. And it's fascinating to me to see what comes out of my subconscious. Where did that come from? Gee. And when I looked at the story of Crystalia and the Source of Light, when I looked at it, I realized that I was really talking about and telling about my whole journey of what I'd learned since losing my wife and daughter, and what I'd learned in this whole journey of coming to terms with that. And I've been extremely fortunate. I've learned a lot. And I thought, well, this is a great opportunity for me to share it. So I intentionally created kind of a classic along the lines of Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz. I presumed to try to write a classic. And in the book, you know, it's a story of a 14-year-old girl. It's told in her voice, and her 9-year-old brother. It's the last Christmas with the mom who's not well. The last Christmas in the house because the bank's kicking them out. The girl's angry, bitter, doesn't believe in anything except what she can see and touch. The boy believes in the need to believe, and on Christmas Eve, they find themselves on a journey through an underground medieval kingdom where everything and everybody are made of minerals and crystals in search of the source of light. So it's an awful lot to do with coming to terms not just with their mother's passing, but more importantly, coming to terms with being helpless. Because I had learned so much about helplessness and about how to relate to helplessness, and that there is really only one fear in life, and it is fear of helplessness. The others are kind of poor cousins and relatives, but that fear of helplessness in the face of your mortality is a very, very, very core fear. And any way that we experience that helplessness in smaller ways, be it stuck in a traffic jam and you're late for an appointment, it's the same issue. Mm-hmm. And as you know, we remember as children, the boogeyman was always right there. He was in the closet under the bed. And then as we got older, it became socially unacceptable for that to be the case, so that we started to learn to live with our fear, or rather to suppress it and cultivate our strongest muscle, which is denial. What I learned was that at the core of our being, if we can be aware of and acknowledge our fear of helplessness, then we have a choice. And our choice is to acknowledge our courage in the face of that helplessness as human beings, to love ourselves, to find compassion for ourselves, and by extension, compassion for the other person. So in the book, while it's very entertaining and the characters are lovely and the world is very exotic, it's a world that nobody knows about, nobody really knows about. At the core of the book, one of the questions that asked is, what is the purpose of fear in our lives? And the purpose of fear in our lives is to give us the opportunity, when we're aware that it's existing there and we're not in denial, to give us the opportunity to remind us that we have a conscious, aware place that is not scared. And from that place, we can choose our hearts. It's a very, very interesting concept. You know, we say, I'm scared. We don't mean that. You mean a part of you is scared. You can even point at the part. You can give it a color, you can give it a perimeter, you can give it a, temperature. And that means you can also point to parts of you that are not scared. Your tip of your nose, your little finger. So that raises the question, well, what's the part of you that can make the distinction between the part that's scared and the part that's not scared? Well, that is your consciousness, your awareness, your innate human gift, your awareness of your own existence. And that's the place when you're reminded that you have it, you can choose to say, good for you, and find your heart. So that became, for me, a lesson that I wanted to communicate. And besides that, the book is just amazing. You know, people think rocks and minerals. They think my local rock shop, it's got quartz and amethyst and citrine and a few fossils. What people don't realize is that any color, texture, hue, form, or shape that you could possibly make up in your mind already exists underground. It's an amazingly intricate world. It's the other half of our existence. And then all these characters in that world have light coming from inside them. So we get to see all the intricacies of their makeup and the variety. I'm very proud of that book. It was, I self-published it. I ran out of money to market it, so that's where we're at right now. But it's a good book.
Have you written any other books?
Yeah, I wrote a book in between drafts of that, which was really a bizarre book. I was walking my daughter's dogs and I saw a crow with a squished up claw turned up like that. I thought, Hookfoot. And I wondered, how did he get that name? So I went back and I wrote how he got that name. And the next day I was walking the dogs and I saw a one-legged seagull. I thought, Pegleg. How'd she get that name? I wrote that. And then all of a sudden, the two of them started taking me on this journey, and all of a sudden they meet a third bird, which is a wild parrot, right? Who speaks with a Spanish accent. And takes one look at the seagull and says, "Oh, you're the most beautiful seagull I ever see." And it's called Hook, Foot, and Peg, A Cautionary Tale, and it's this journey of friendship and something about the environment, a lot of humor. And so, and then I illustrated that book. So now I have to go back on the illustrations and improve them all because I've been working so much on my painting and my digital art.
And you had mentioned earlier that you recently played Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof.
I just came from a 9-month tour of Fiddler on the Roof, 1 week in each city, 23 cities, England, Ireland, Scotland,
Wow.
playing Tevye, which I have to say was an amazing experience. Very, very difficult. My doctor told me the other day it's going to take me a year to recover. I kept saying, I said, why am I so tired? But I was definitely born to play that role, and it was great. It was good. It was
Why do you
really
feel
good.
you were born to play that?
Hmm?
Why do you feel you were born to play
It just felt so easy. So easy. I understood all the humor. And as I said before, Tevye and Starsky had the ability to play all these colors and all of these levels, and yeah, I just knew I had it. So that was good.
So we've skipped around, covered some of your credits, but not all of them. Is there anything that you've worked on that you'd want to bring up at all?
No,
Covered all the good ones?
I did all the summer stock, and I did the repertory, and I did the Shakespeare festivals, and I did all of that, and I guess I've done a lot.
You have done a lot. And what are some of your other current projects? You mentioned painting.
Well, I have the painting. I've done over 1,500 drawings, etchings, sketches, and paintings, and so we're going to do a show of those. So I'm curating them right now and trying to get that organized. Excuse me. And then I have, I have another book I'm halfway through. I got a bunch of projects. Right now, I'm just mainly painting.
Nice.
Yeah.
We have a few just summing up questions. What is your proudest career achievement?
My next breath.
Good answer. Do you have any career regrets?
They're a waste of time. You can't change it. So why even go there?
What advice would you give to an aspiring actor?
Well, if you're really compelled, if you got to do this more than anything in the whole world, then I'd say patience and perseverance.
What about advice for an aspiring director?
Same thing.
Same thing. And our final question is, how would you like to be remembered?
I'd like to be remembered.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for your time today, Paul.
Thank
It's been
you.
wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.